Hello and welcome to another video. In this one I want to talk about a very particular part of the Civil War technology update and why I think it is not the way to go about balancing clan versus IS forces. Now what I want to look at today is light Ferro armor, the new type of armor that only takes up 7 slots, but the weight savings is not as powerful as regular Ferro fibrous. Now you may ask yourself, why is this an issue? Don't the Clan and IS have the same upgrades? No, we don't. And to demonstrate that, I have a pair of Orions here, 75-ton heavy. We have both the Inner Sphere Orion and the Clan Orion in the form of the Orion 2C. Aside from the fact that they're two different technology bases, the mechs are the same weight class, the same amount of total armor, all that kind of stuff. Taking a look at the Orion from the Inner Sphere, we can see that we have 16.9 tons used, and that is a blank mech. It's just got full armor. We've got both Ferro and Endo taken. Okay, it takes 16.9 to basically have an empty chassis. But how much does it take for a clan mech? 16.1. Oh, why is that? Where is that 0.8 going, and why does the clan mech, who is superior in all these other ways with lighter and smaller weapons and other technology, why does it have additional tonnage as well? That is because of the Ferro upgrade. For the clans here, we can see it has 20% more protection per ton, and it occupies 7 critical slots. We'll pop over back into the Inner Sphere mechs, and their Ferro gives them 12% more protection per ton. That's not as strong as 20%, and that is where that weight differences is coming from. Also, this thing occupies 14 criticals instead of 7, which is double, meaning that it's twice as much space and therefore 50% the strength in that sense per slot used than the clan equivalent. Now, let's get in some precise numbers on this in the Spreadsheet Warrior. So we'll pop back over here, and I made this table in the Spreadsheet Warrior to illustrate these differences. We have all of the different points per ton of all the different types of armor in the game, including the new upcoming light Ferro fibrous. Light from lore adds 6% more protection per ton. Now keep in mind, this doesn't make it so that your mech can take more armor. Your mech doesn't take a certain quantity of tonnage in armor, your mech takes a certain quantity of points. So if your armor, you get more points per ton, it means you need less tonnage in order to fill up your required quota of points. That's where these weight savings come in. So normal standard armor is 32 points. This is doubled from tabletop, where it was 16, to slow down the game and add more armor to everyone. Light Ferro with 6% additional is 33.92. IS Ferro with 12% additional is 35.84, and Clan Ferro with 20% additional is 38.4. Now if we look down here, we have all of the different tonnages in the game and their equivalent max armors. If you took that entire thing of armor and put it on the mech, it would cost a certain amount of weight. Under standard armor, which is 32 points, it would be this column here. For example, our 75-tonner, it would be 14.44 tons. And that's the same for both Inner Sphere and clans. However, when we start getting into the Ferro realm, that's where things change. For light Ferro, it would be 13.62 tons for that entire set of 462 points of armor. For regular Ferro fibrous from the IS, it would be 12.89 tons, and Clan Ferro is 12.03. So you can see that difference of 0.8 here is what we're seeing here in the mech lab. Now, we can see how much is being saved by each one compared to standard armor. So in your light Ferro savings, it's primarily from a quarter ton to just over a ton in terms of how much you'll save for your 7 slots. IS Ferro goes from half a ton to 2 tons for 14 slots, and Clan Ferro goes from 3/4 of a ton to 3 1/4 tons for 7 slots. So obviously, because of this difference here, where the 6%, 12%, and 20%, that is where we're getting less effectiveness with inner sphere ferro armor, and we're getting less weight savings. And when you calculate this out, comparing it against how strong equivalently clan ferro is, slot for slot, and weight saving for weight saving, if you compare light versus clan, it's 1-to-1 in terms of size. They're exactly the same. So all we have to do is compare 0.4 versus 0.72. And that is a simple division, and that comes out to 33.96% of the power. Light ferro compared to clan ferro. So clan ferro is just under 3 times as powerful as light ferro. If you compare it versus regular ferro, you can't just do a direct division here because they're not the same size. What we have to do instead is divide, of course, the 0.46 versus 0.72, but then to keep in mind that the regular inner sphere ferro is twice the size, we have to divide by 2 because this is a per slot basis, and that gets us down to 32.14, which is just over 3 times as powerful clan ferro versus IS ferro. And this is silly that they're going to add light ferro because it doesn't do anything in terms of affecting IS versus clan balance. Sure, there are going to be a few edge case scenarios where those 7 slots are going to be important to a mech, and getting an extra 3/4 ton in your heavy is actually going to be important. But it's only 3/4 of a ton, and it's 7 slots still. Like, you're still paying out for it in slots. I personally wouldn't want to pay out 7 slots on, say, a lot of mechs for a 1/2 ton or 3/4 of a ton. Where in the clans, sure, if I get 2 or 3 extra tons on my my mediums, my assaults, or like a ton or a ton and a half, or maybe even 2 on my mediums, and it's just even on some of my clan mechs where I can take battle mechs, I choose not to take ferro simply because slots are so important to take heat sinks and stuff like that. So there's even reasons to not take this, which is the most powerful, and yet they're saying that, oh, I've seen people discussing of how great light ferro is going to be, and it's going to be like, oh, you didn't talk about it in your Uzil video because it's going to change things. I'm like, no, it's not. I'm going to immediately remove it because the Uzil is only going to get 0.6 tons back from it. It's not worth it. I'd rather take the space for heat sinks and just take one less gun instead. And this is just a problem with the inner sphere and clan balance, and something that is not going to change if we stick to lore. We need to change this. We need to improve these numbers, these 33% powers here, comparatively to inner sphere ferro. What I would love to see is regular ferro should be both increased in power and reduced in size. And this is also going to go along with endosteel. Not doing those numbers right here, endosteel has the same effective weight reduction as the clan versus IS, but the inner sphere one is double the size, so therefore the effective power of the inner sphere upgrade is 50% of that of the clan upgrade for endo. You need to take both endo and ferro, get them off of 14 slots. They don't have to go down to 7, although I would prefer if they were just equal, but take them down to at least 10. 10 slots each. That would save 8 slots for a mech that takes both endo and ferro. Then take inner sphere ferro, the normal stuff here, and increase it from 12 to 20%, such that it matches clan ferro in terms of the weight savings. This would take inner sphere ferro from 32% power compared to clan and take it to 70% power with the 10 slots compared to the current 14. It would be a massive increase for Inner Sphere mechs. You would need less quirks, because you wouldn't have to worry about the fact that the clans on every single mech are just getting an extra few tons of space, because not only can Inner Sphere mechs not take Ferro because of its size, they're not taking Ferro because it's not very impactful. It's only a ton or two, where the clans, it's 2 or 3, and that's where it starts to get important. That's where it's like, that's another laser and 2 additional heatsinks in order to actually keep that thing firing. We need to make this change, otherwise Inner Sphere mechs are just going to be always be based on the underlying system left behind from clan mechs. And as we continue forward, the best mechs in the game will continue to be clan battle mechs that are freed from all of the engine swapping stuff. They can swap around their upgrades as they wish. We will never get out of that unless we improve the underlying system of the other battle mechs in the game, the Inner Sphere battle mechs. But that is going to be it for now. This is a very, I think, important issue that is just a systemic problem for clan stuff and for Inner Sphere stuff when you stick to lore. But that's going to be it. Thanks for watching, and good hunting.